Alrighty guys, thanks for tuning in. Very soon I want to share an important story that I've held on to for a very long time. It's by far one of my favorite experiences ever. But before I share that story, I kind of just want to talk about what the effects of a candy flip are like in general. Because I think it is such a unique combination. A candy flip is when you combine SID with MD, and I'm just phrasing it like that so I don't get taken down by AI censorship. But these substances synergize extremely well and induce some very unique effects, which I'm going to talk about now. Just keep in mind, I am only sharing this video to help educate people to understand that this is not a substance that should be abused and used for recreational reasons. The other reason why I'm sharing this video though is because I think it's important people know what happens when you combine these substances to, perform legal research. And so I am making this to promote a reform on whatever restrictions we have that are stopping and prohibiting this research. So the first notable unique effect of a candy flip is music enhancement. When I say music enhancement, obviously lots of different substances can enhance music. SID and MD both do it by themselves, but you have to consider this. They've done brain scans to find out why music sounds so good. And what they discovered was that it activates the same structures of the brain that are active when, we receive other sources of pleasure, such as food, sex, and drugs. And I think a part of that list of drugs that would stimulate these structures of pleasure would be SID and MD. When you're listening to music, you're essentially, this is my understanding of it, my unqualified understanding of it, but this is the only way I can kind of justify just how massive the euphoria is. When you take a candy flip and listen to music, you're essentially stimulating these structures of the brain with 3 different sources of pleasure. And so it's stimulated to a massive degree, and the euphoria you get, for me, it was better than an orgasm when I had my candy flip. And it just lasted, obviously, an extremely long time, as long as I kind of listened to music. I compare it to an orgasm because you will literally feel it in your whole body. But it's not an artificial feeling of euphoria either. It's as if you all of a sudden can perceive a level of artistic detail that you couldn't perceive when you were sober. It's as if suddenly you could understand what the artist meant when he made this song. Even if the artist doesn't consciously understand it himself, this was what you're experiencing is on purpose. It's like it's not just euphoria that you can't really rationalize and explain. It's like you hear each unique instrument. Sometimes it even feels like it separates the instruments and you can hear them from different regions of the brain or different areas of your brain. And it's as if your ears are suddenly working better because you can hear these independent instruments with such clarity that you just never had experienced before. What also happens though is that it feels like the music is actually written for you. It doesn't matter even if there aren't any lyrics, but I'll use, lyrics as an example. When we're sober, we get a sense of this, a taste of this. Like if you're depressed and down and all of a sudden you listen to some music and there's a lyric such as, don't give up hope, even though you will rationalize and say to yourself that lyric wasn't written for you, on an emotional level, you kind of respond to it as if it was written for you. And it may even pick up your mood a little bit or something like that. That effect where it feels like the lyrics are made for you, that's enhanced to a massive degree during a candy flip, to the point where every lyric feels like it is either written for or responding to exactly what you are, experiencing in that moment. And even if there aren't lyrics, it will feel like the music is, it's weird. It's actually a weird effect. Sometimes it will feel like it's reacting to or even orchestrating your experience. I remember once during, I think it was my candy flip, I went to walk to the park for a little bit, and then I remember I lost my keys, or my keys fell out of my pocket, and I returned to the house. And as I'm looking for my keys, the music is doing this weird loop, and it just doesn't sound very good, sounds a bit chaotic. And then I realize, I may have left my keys at the park. And as I realize I may have left my keys in the park, the music starts to build up. And eventually when I find my keys, the beat drops and it feels like I'm happy and celebrating and the music's celebrating with me. So that's what I mean when I say the music doesn't just feel like it's artificially inducing euphoria. It seems like there's a reason for the euphoria. The next unique effect of the candy flip is how it will influence your depth perception. So let's say you're looking at your environment. Every object will be defined, but your quality of depth perception will be far more shallow or weaker than it was before. And what I mean by that is distant objects and nearby objects won't really actually feel like they are far away from each other. It'll feel like they're all kind of the same distance to each other from you. It's as if you're watching a 3D movie or like a pop-up book where there's a sense that objects are at different depths, but in reality, they're all as far away from you as each other. Sorry, I'm phrasing it terribly, but that's what it feels like. It feels like you're watching a 3D movie or just looking at a pop-up book where the sense of depth is actually an illusion and it's all the same distance from you. It's very hard to explain, but that's the best description I have for it. I'll get to the most important effect in a moment, but the second last effect I wanted to mention is extreme presentness. Now, why you become more present during the candy flip is hard to say, but I think it's because psychedelics in general alter our perception on such a fundamental level that it makes you like essentially reassess a familiar environment. That's why I think so many people say it feels like that they're made into a kid again when they take a substance or take a psychedelic. It's because it looks like you're looking at the world for the first time, or the first time since you were a child. When I had my candy flips, I was way more present, and I was taking in all the details of my environment. And I'm not exactly sure which comes first. I'm not exactly sure if you are more present and then that's what makes the details in your environment seem to be more pronounced and it seems like you've just gotten better vision, or if you are, noticing these details in your environment because you are more present. I'm not sure, but all I know is that the result of that is it enhances the pleasure of every little detail that I'm taking in and every little action that I'm making. I remember one of my friends said to me, because he'd had a candy flip before, he told me to just take in really deep breaths. And that's what I did. I took in really deep breaths and I just remember it felt so good. It just felt so unbelievably good. So yeah, definitely being more present is an effect of this candy flip. But the final and the most important effect, I believe, that a candy flip will induce is an easy response to intense, what we normally call hallucinations. It doesn't feel like a hallucination when you experience it, but what I mean by hallucinations are things like entity contact and alien messages, and when your thoughts become disassociated from you, when your outside world doesn't feel like the outside world anymore. It feels like an extension of your own mind. These are effects that aren't necessarily unique to a candy flip. That's why I'm not going into detail about those effects I just mentioned, but they certainly can take place during a candy flip. I mean, you've got SID in your system, and you've mixed it with MD, which is it's not a psychedelic, but it has psychedelic components to it, and those psychedelic components will enhance the trippiness of SID. But something about MD makes us, obviously it's known to make us more empathetic, but it also is just known to make us feel good. I'm not exactly sure about the chemistry behind why that is, but I think that on SID and mushrooms and DMT, sometimes the euphoria can be overcome by the alienness of the experience. But with a candy flip, the euphoria trumps the alienness. It's as if everything is wrapped up in euphoria, and the more intense the experience, the more intense the euphoria. But anyway, guys, that's my video on the most common effects unique to a candy flip. Keep in mind, none of these effects can be reliably induced as of now. There's not enough research been done on candy flips or, SID or MD for that matter. And even though these are common effects of a candy flip, they're not going to take place every time for every person. So don't get the idea that you can just, cheat and take MD with a massive dose of acid and you're going to have a great time and learn a whole bunch and have that full-on freaky experience and come out of it without being challenged. Yeah, I don't want people to put themselves through an experience that they're not ready for just because they watch this video, but I'm going to leave it there. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys are having an amazing, fantastic day. If not, make it an amazing, fantastic day. If psychedelics have taught me anything, it's that we have far more control over our experience than we believe. And with that, guys, I'll see you in the next video.